get started on the second morning session. The way I like to think of this is if QTech sort of gets you to the point where you have a little bit of money to buy some rocket fuel, and a general direction of where to point your rocket, then QTIC is where you go to launch. So Wes is going to tell us a little bit about the Quantum Technology Innovation Center.
So, can everybody hear me at the back? I'm a bit croaky, thumbs up, thanks. So, my name's Mustafa Rampuri. I'm the lead for our Quantum Technologies Innovation Center here at Bristol. And I'm just going to give you a bit of an introduction into what it is and what we're trying to achieve and how you might join us and be involved in this effort. So, what is a Quantum Technology Innovation Center? Well, it's an open environment where companies can come to collaborate and work and access facilities that they can't necessarily get for themselves. It's there to support new business incubation. So as Chris just pointed out and as Andy mentioned this morning, if you're an entrepreneur and you need access to state-of-the-art facilities, but you can't afford a university lab, then this innovation center will help you because it will have all the types of equipment and facilities that you need, but at a power by the hour rate, so priced so that you can actually use it. And providing access to a network for innovation. And this is a largely overlooked piece of the jigsaw puzzle, but is absolutely a priority for anyone who is thinking about creating a new business. Being able to access people who look like customers and people who can help define what the applications of your bit of technology are, or your service, or your business, that comes through networks. And one of the things that we have in Bristol in spades is a network around innovation. So the objectives of QTIC, the Innovation Centre, are to support the national priorities, so aligning with the activities of the UK National Quantum Technology Programme and the requirements of government, for those programmes to create and support the economy and productivity and new jobs and all of that kind of business. To address the market failures that we see through the establishment of new QT businesses, in particular the high sunk costs that are associated with bringing a new business to market, and that can be around the development of the technology, the bits of equipment, and accessing hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of kit that you don't need to buy for yourself because we'll buy it, and then we can provide that in a way that you can rent it. And then supporting the development of skills. So here at Bristol we have one of the UK Training and Skills Hub in Quantum Technologies. That's a Centre for Doctoral Training and the Quantum Technologies Enterprise Centre. So that combined with master's programmes that are ongoing throughout the UK and other PhD activities, we can help link all of that up. And if you're a student who's not so keen maybe to go on to an academic career and is thinking about maybe doing something else, but perhaps not familiar with the options or maybe see them as being a bit high risk, then certainly talk to folks like Andy and Chris and myself about how we can support you in doing things that are perhaps different and more entrepreneurial. So how does it support the national programme? So one of the things that we have here at Bristol is the Harbour Institute for Mathematical Research. So Noah Linden, I think, is around here, and certainly Sir Peter Knight is over there. If you're really keen on doing mathematics and particularly quantum information type things, then certainly talk to those people, and there may be something that can be provided through that. And then secondly, going beyond the scope of the hubs that we have right now and looking at how all of that great work can then be translated into things that impact on the economy in terms of jobs and wealth creation and all the rest of it. And that's where the Innovation Centre fits in to bridge that gap. and as if by magic. So the way that I see it, and the way that it's been described to me, is that there are companies out here who work with mature technologies, who really like quantum technologies and the things that they are supposed to provide. But what they don't want to do is make them for themselves. They want to buy them and then integrate them into their platforms and their products and their services. So the way that seems to be happening is that they talk to their supply chain and say, provide me a black box technology that will do this. The supply chain says, well, that's great, but we don't have the skills to do that, and looks further down the supply chain. But it turns out that within quantum technologies, being disruptive, being new, that supply chain is very immature, and there is a gap between where the academic endeavour stops and where the supply chain need starts. And so our innovation centre hopes to fill that gap, the valley of death, the chasm of doom, the mountain of risk in between where universities stop and businesses start. And thankfully, the UK government recognises that there is a valley of death, a chasm of doom, and a mountain of risk, and puts money into these types of things so that big companies don't have to, and certainly that the small businesses can leap that bound. So where do we fit? I very much see this as being a national resource. It's not a Bristol thing, because if it were, then we're massively over capacity. And it fits within a UK environment and a EU flagship environment. But also, one of the things that we've been working very hard on, and perhaps quite quietly, behind the scenes, is to build up a network of other industries and investors. So perhaps one of the things that I notice a lot around quantum tech is that people seem to go to the same places and talk to the same people a lot. One of the challenges we've been doing, perhaps why we've been a little bit quiet, is that we're going to the places, the unusual places, the places where you wouldn't necessarily find quantum folk going to talk to biologists or maybe social scientists or somewhere else. People, companies who you might think of being non-quantum or even interested in quantum. It turns out that a lot of people really are, but are just a bit scared by it and don't really know how to interact with it. So one of our roles is to try and bridge that gap again in people's understanding and reducing that fear. So a really busy slide, but anyway, the point here is to say that here at Bristol, QTIC kind of fits in within a broader ecosystem of activities that start with kind of skills and training, go through the UK hubs and program grant type activity, and all along the kind of maturing technologies. And so the idea around QTIC is that at some point those products and services and technologies are mature enough to come out of the lab and be turned into things that look like real products, real concept demonstrators, things that people might want to buy. And that's the same for many universities, certainly in the UK. I'm sure that diagram could be drawn for many, certainly of the partner hub universities. And then there's the sort of the value chain of where things happen. So we have the theoretical kind of discoveries that happen at quite a sort of more foundational level, and those are worked on, developed into things that look that are repeatable technologies that can then be turned into products that can be taken to market. And again, QTIC fits in over here, kind of technology demonstration, enterprise and entrepreneurship end of it, and bringing in the bigger businesses to support it. So what are we actually going to do? Well, we're going to create 2 facilities. A first phase in the development of this will be to create a pilot facility. And if you look out of the window, you can just sort of see it. There's the white building down here called Bordeaux Quay. Behind it is a sort of cream building with big windows. That is called Cathedral Square, and the university's just taken a very long lease on that building, and we will be establishing the prototype phase of QTIC within that, and that comes online this summer. What it will be an incubator that has a number of labs, different spaces for entrepreneurs and businesses to come together. We hope that the QTech program and the fellows will take advantage of this, that our other activities within the Set Squared partnership and the engine shed will also want to be a part of this as well. And then in the fullness of time, so over the next couple of years, we'll be actually building a brand new building right next to Temple Meads railway station. So anybody who came here today on a train will have seen a big derelict building to one side of the railway station. That's ours. And we're going to knock it down and build a new one. And it's a 44,000 square metre building for research and enterprise for the university, and it's part of a development called the Temple Quarter Enterprise Campus. And within that will be academic researchers, there'll be industry people, there'll be people from society in general, NGOs and community groups, but it'll also have a big quantum flavour to it too. So you'll find some really great labs being built in there that can take cryogenics and whatever you want. So we're sort of speccing that up at the moment with the designers, and one of the key things that keeps coming back every time we talk to any stakeholders is it's got to have good coffee. So we are working on that. The next thing, so the pilot facility, which is that building over there, the QTIC will have a good corner of it, which will look like some kind of multi-occupancy offices for companies down here, some laboratories, some kind of more flexible spaces, and meeting rooms. And then there's this is where the coffee's at, over here. So we're taking that. Actually, it's a really serious thing, because right at the beginning I mentioned network and making sure that people are connected. The way that people connect and network, because we're all human beings, is around a kitchen table, because that's what we have at home, and that's it's where the heart of the party is. So we definitely want to have an environment that feels not sterile and very much open and allowing people to work together. So what will QTIC provide? Well, access to semiconductor fabrication. So through the UK Common Hub program, we have a facility called QPIC, which is creating integrated photonic circuits, but other circuits as well, and that enables us to work with loads of other foundries that are in this region and beyond, and to provide an aggregated service for people who want to build devices on a chip. Then we'll be able to signpost and help people do that, design those technologies. I have 7 minutes. And if you're interested in that, talk to Graham Marshall, Graham, put your hand up, there he is at the back. He's leading and running with that and making that a huge success at the moment. Secondly, manufacturing. If you think that being an entrepreneur means soldering up boards in your bedroom, that might have been right many years ago, but there are people who do it really quite cheaply, and Josh is laughing because that's what he does. Still doing it. Well done, Josh. Keep the flag flying. But there are loads of places here in this region and in the UK that can build 10 or 20 or 100 or 1,000 boards at a good rate. And we probably, like most other universities, have good connections to those people, and because we use them so much, can provide better prices than if you were just an individual going to. Market access. This goes back to the network thing. One of the things that we can provide is access to our little black book, and be able to put you in touch if you're an entrepreneur and you need customers. Then we probably know quite a lot of the customers that you want to know, and so through what we're doing, we can help you access those. And then the unique infrastructure. So for me, bricks and mortar and little boxes of gadgets and widgets, it's really cool, but it's not as important as the people. So to run that unique infrastructure, we will have kind of an all-star cast of really smart people who know what they're doing, and can help you as business folks turn what you're doing into real things. So in a little bit more detail, the sorts of things that we hope to have, the incubation, the suites for designing and using simulation tools, laboratories, integration labs, facilities for packaging and creating devices, some things that are a bit more researchy, like the chip scale kind of photonics labs, but also access to our Bristol is Open network, so that's a metropolitan area QKD network, and Chris Irvin can tell you all about that, just catch him later, which feeds into this city scale dark fiber QKD network thing. And there's folks from ID Quantique here as well, and they can tell you all about what's going on with that. But if you want to do things that are superconducting, using high power lasers, then we'll have those sorts of labs as well, and facilities. So timeline, as I said, the pilot facility over there, which I just add won't have cryogenics in it. That comes online in this summer, so in a matter of months we'll be up and running, and the full-scale facility opens in the third quarter of 2021. That's dependent on whether or not there's cholera pits underneath the building. And it turns out that when Bristol had a cholera epidemic, they buried the bodies underneath in that area. And cholera lasts for 200 years, and it's been 175 or something like that. So there's some genuine worry that somebody might get cholera. But we'll we'll work that out as and when it comes. So that there may be a delay. For reasons that are in the ground. 25 years. Yeah, so it's got to wait 25 years, absolutely. Well, I mean, they built a big office building, there's a sorting office on top of it, so it can't be that much. Anyway, so, there's a slide missing. Okay. There was a slide that says thank you to our partners, and some of our partners are here today, so I'd just like to say thank you to people from Keysight, from Airbus, D-Wave, Boeing, KETS, Controls, and a whole heap of other people who have been contributing to the development of this, not least to say EPSRC, Innovate UK, and the West of England Local Enterprise Partnership, who have paid for it. So that is me. Thank you very much. Any questions?
There are a few questions out there. Yeah.
What really sets you apart from QTech?
Sorry?
What really sets you apart from QTech?
From QTech? Which QTech? The Delft QTech or these QTechs? So actually, QTech at Bristol and QTIC are kind of a hand-in-glove kind of thing, right? So they look after the skills and the people, and QTIC will necessarily provide those people with the right sorts of facilities and environment and the network for them to flourish within. So, you know, the flow would be, you know, we have undergraduates who train to become postdocs, you know, through our PhD training program, through a CBT. We give them some kind of entrepreneurial inspiration. And then, you know, they come out of that and say, well, you know, I don't necessarily want to be an academic, I might want to do this, you know, enterprise thing. So the purpose of QTech is to catch those people and help shape them and form them and give them additional training so that they they can step out and be entrepreneurs in their own right. And it's a very different mindset from being a PhD student, being someone who's going to run a business and be responsible for other people and their jobs and their like security. So, and then when they get to the end of that program and they've raised some money, where do they go? The idea here is that we provide them with those sorts of facilities so that they can do it. You know, one of the challenges, of course, is that in the UK and Europe, raising heaps of venture capital investment is really, really difficult. You know, it's why there is something of a transit to the United States, but there's also, you know, a little bit of perhaps misunderstanding maybe about what that is, and of course you can raise lots of money, and you know, we see all the time Silicon Valley companies raising tens of millions of dollars. But it's really expensive out there. So just take the base price here, multiply it by 10. That's how much it's going to cost to run your business in Silicon Valley. So, you know, we might have companies raising a tenth the investment that we see over there, but actually that takes them in just the same way, same distance. It's just more efficient, and you know, economically, it's a better model over here, to be frank. Josh.
Are you expecting your tenants to be short-term, they're prototyping and then growing into the world, or medium-term tenants? Or do you expect people to be planning to stay with you for the long term?
So I think that's very much dependent on each organisation, and I've got no fixed view. So I'd be delighted if somebody came, did their thing, they were really successful, and the next thing they need to do is go into premises where they need to have a manufacturing site. You know, that's a great win, and I'd be delighted with that. If they just kind of came in, bounced out straight away, you know, brilliant. But if they came in and they needed 2 or 3 or however many years of support, and they grow much more slowly over that time, then that's great as well, because we've supported those organisations in that journey and helped make them successful. Because if they come in and there's 2 of them, and then several years later they exit to go into an accelerator and they're 10 people, well, that's really valuable as well, and that's jobs and great for the UK.
Any other question?
Chris.
I'm assuming it's going to be owned by the university, is that right?
Well, it's a good question.
Because my second question is, would it be more sustainable if it wasn't? My example probably is, I'm a biologist, but my example is BioCity, for example, which actually invested in its own startups. And one of the reasons why it's been so successful is when it then sold some of the businesses it had equity in, it ended up with its own investment fund.
Right.
So I'm just raising the issue now, why it's not too late, about whether or not it would be a more sustainable proposition if it wasn't.
So we've looked at a number of different models for that, and there's kind of a blurring here between what QTech does, the enterprise training thing, and what QTech does. So whether it's owned by the university or not is an interesting question. So our National Composite Centre is a company limited by guarantee, so it's its own thing. Its guarantor is the University of Bristol, so in effect it's kind of like a subsidiary of the university. That has enabled the National Contact Centre to do whatever it wanted to do, but it's also kind of responsible to its major shareholder, the University of Bristol, and the University of Bristol dictates to some degree what it's allowed to do. There are other models out there. We still haven't quite finessed how that looks, the QTIC, to be fair. And there are many good reasons, for example, around taxation, why you want to do it one way and not the other, and and about freedom to operate, so let's do it this way or not that way. But ultimately, we do kind of just need to settle down onto which direction we're going to take it and make it a success. But the thing around the fund, the university has an investment portfolio fund as well, so that should align with that and perhaps not compete against.
And that's the other point, really. I mean, one of the lessons, particularly from Scotland, is a lot of businesses became uninvestable because their major investor was a public sector organisation. So I mean, that was my other question, really, was if you weren't and you didn't effectively have the university beside you, would it actually be useful? Obviously, that's a question we've got.
No, it's a really good question, and it's one thing that all universities in the UK are grappling with at the moment, is what is the best, most effective model of enterprise, and on the whole, it's get out of the way and let the entrepreneurs do their thing, is probably the best example of where it's going on, and we can all learn from universities who are doing that. But every university, as far as I can tell, has its kind of successes and its failures. Some are more honest about those than others.
I'm just going to ask a last one quick, maybe in 30 seconds. What would you say to somebody who's not from Bristol, interested in commercialization, and says they've got their own commercialization office? Can they still get involved in QTIC?
Yes.